Welcome to Beyond Mindset Limits with Tisha Marie Cain. Here, we explore how unlocking your mindset can pave the way for unlimited success. Discover how to create opportunities through legal challenges and transform your business and life with effective public relations strategies. Get ready to elevate your journey and maximize your potential. Now, let's welcome your host, Tisha Marie Cain.
Welcome to Beyond Mindset Limits. I am your host, Tisha Marie Cain, Executive Counsel, Clinical Hypnotherapist, Publisher, and Publicist. This is where we explore the mindset, identity, and courage behind extraordinary lives. And today's guest is a powerful example of exactly that. Today on Beyond Mindset Limits, I'm honored to welcome premier celebrity guest, Stephen Costantino. He's a musician, an actor, producer, and creative force whose career spans music, film, and legacy. From his early roots in Hoboken, right? Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yes.
Yes, to playing guitar, writing songs, and working with artists connected to New Edition, Bel Biv DeVoe, Crazy Town, and the Black Eyed Peas. Stephen has built a life around creative excellence. He is also part of the cinematic history known to fans worldwide for portraying Gamorrean Guard in The Return of the Jedi. Today, we're going beyond the spotlight and into the mindset behind reinvention, courage, creativity, and the power to keep expanding. Stephen, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here and love meeting you in Vegas. And I must say, your questions that you sent me are so insightful and profound. It's nice because it's not the status quo. You know, you dig deep, and I like that.
Thank you, Stephen. I do. I saw you in Vegas, and I knew you're an energy that I instantly resonated with, and you're a powerhouse. And I'm like, oh gosh, my husband and my family were with me, and I'm like, we had to go to your booth and talk to you. And so this was a divine connection, and I'm so glad you're on my show today. And so let's go ahead and dive in. You're such a powerful example of what I call going beyond mindset limits. You've followed music. You stayed open to the unexpected doors. You've stepped into the film history. You've built creative partnerships and continued reinventing yourself throughout the years. When you look back on your journey, what do you believe made you brave enough to keep walking into the unknown? Come on, tell us. I want to know.
Well, I look at it like I was born with music as soon as I came out of the womb, and probably from past life as well.
Yes.
That frequency. And my life there's a lot of love in the family, Italian family. My father got sick very young. I was always compassionate about that because he couldn't be who he wanted to at that point. And music was always my savior, you know, and the transition in music. Of course, I'm born in Hoboken, and the great big bands, and Frank Sinatra was born there. We had all that. And then we went into the 50s and a doo-wop, and then the 60s to the 70s were just incredible transition from music, electric guitar, jazz, blues, British rock, Southern rock, California rock, the whole gamut was just so enticing. And I was in that frequency, and I feel very grateful. And, you know, that was my sanity. I love playing music. I love writing, and I was just voracious with information. And back then we did not have the internet. So we read magazines like Circus, Rolling Stone, and what have you, and books, of course. I was a voracious reader. And I always wanted to be an adventurer and venture out. And I wanted to feel with these experiences that I read about and felt inside and become part of it. And the only way to do that is just be adventurous and put one step forward and go ahead, you know?
Wow. And as you were saying that, I got chills because I love your expansive mindset. Just go after it and be adventurous. We only get one life here on planet Earth, or so they say. It's probably a lie. Maybe we only get one life as Tisha Marie Cain and Steven, but I don't really know. But all I know is, going beyond mindset limits and really stepping into adventure, like you just mentioned, has proven you successful, wouldn't you say?
I'm fulfilled.
Yes.
Success is just a dream, and I love to dream. And my yearbook was said dreamer. uh,
Yes.
and I'm pretty realistic and practical as well, but also it's a parallel dichotomy of what you do. I mean, I feel like I'm a shadow of myself looking at that and becoming one with that, and also on the fringe, like the song I wrote, Silent Heart, about being a kite on a string, frayed and ready to break. uh, that's there too, and sometimes it has to break because those emotions will push you beyond the humdrum, so to speak.
Mm. Yeah, you're a writer, a musician. The key and operative word I heard you say here is fulfilled. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I also coach high level executives, C-suite executives. I wrote a book. It's the standard for CEOs and executives who refuse to be overlooked, undervalued, and forgotten. And a lot of my clients climb the corporate ladder and they have their Rolex watches and their penny loafers, and they have all the money in the world and they're traveling, they're doing whatever they need to be doing, but they're unfulfilled. So my heart is just like shining right now with the fact that you are fulfilled and you are continuing to live out your dream. I know you said that you started with music at a young age in Hoboken.
Yeah.
And what was the first moment you realized music wasn't just something you did, but it was something like in the fibers of your soul?
Well, it's funny because I look back at very when I was very young, and I think I had a ukulele or some kind of toy guitar that my parents had gotten me, and I'm holding it. And when I look at my hand holding that neck, it was just there. It was innate, and I can see that now more than ever. And that definitely comes. I feel very grateful and blessed because that allowed me to heal and process. I call it um, repression regressed, so to speak, repression for regression. And
Oh.
and of course, you get the repressed stuff and you have to let it out because you have all these emotions, and it takes that to bear your soul. And you learn to do that, but you have to be very humble. So I was lucky that playing guitar and writing, and all the people like peers that I stood on their shoulders, of course. Um, all that stuff was so important, but I did it for me.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing is people, my peers and friends, I brought joy from that when I expressed it.
You know
And
what? Yes, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you said joy, it's almost like when I met you the first time, those who exude joy. Because could you feel that I exuded joy as well when you first met me?
oh, absolutely, I just that's what been my whole life is it's those key nomads that we or gypsies, so to speak,
Yeah.
that that I met my whole life, and they put me in a position, and I know it's there. I can't predict it, but I know it's there, and I know when it comes, and I know how I feel, and I just surrender to it, and that's what I love. Every corner I turn, I know that my muse or the entity is going to be there, and it's very deep and it's universal,
Mm.
'cause it's a frequency, and we're also human beings, let's face it, but that spirit, that's why I think we have to evolve many lifetimes before we can go on.
Oh, that's a good point. Because I know on this show, Beyond Mindset Limits, it's about breaking past the identity that keeps us small. Was there a moment you had outgrown an old version of yourself to step into the next best chapter of yourself? Was there a life defining moment where you're like, okay, that's past me, and now I get to do this?
Well, I kind of had a knowing, and
Yeah.
being from Hoboken, 2 square miles on the Hudson, leveled with Manhattan, you're looking at this monolith, and you know, I think we just went with it. That was the proximity of people and diversity of cultures and music. All that was so alive that you would just go. There was no thinking about it. You survive, and you look, all around you, your peripherals, but at the same time, you just went with it. And I knew I was above the status quo in schools and stuff because it was very dogmatic back then. And
Mhm.
but because of reading and stuff, you always had people that stood out and mentored you and that you respected and looked up to. There was always those key teachers, but school is way different that back then. So I look for it in reading and music, and that was the thing. And I saw I was very good at seeing the reality of things because we like to dress it up a little bit for our
Mhm.
own egos. Like you said, the Rolexes and all that. And I love beautiful things. I'm not as materialistic as I used to be, but I love guitars and equipment and stuff, of course. But and I love quality. My Italian roots, clothing and furniture and everything else, Italian and European. In that sense, I felt those roots real deeply, even though I wasn't born there, and I didn't get to Europe till later. But yeah, that's the thing about music. It takes you all over the universe, and you could
Mm.
be in your being in your mind uh, because of that frequency. I keep speaking. I mean, scientifically, I think it's 440 is an A, 440 vibrations per second make an A, but there's the A. I think it's four. I can't think of it now. 430 is a universal frequency or
I
something.
think it's 432, which is like,
432, right?
yeah, which is
And,
love, I think, but don't quote me on that.
well, it's the whole universal tone,
Yeah.
frequency that we vibrate on, and even certain guitars like Hendrix would try to tune down to that because we tune the standard, 440A or what have you, and he would try to get to the 32 because he wanted to tap into that. I think a lot of classical artists, we were keen to that because music also brings science and emotion. I think they're both spirituality. They're all one.
Mm.
Now as a writer, guitarist, producer, engineer, all of that, I'm going on all cylinders, and it keeps me sharp at my age. There's no doubt. So
Yeah.
both sides of my brain are definitely in parallel and always working. Because I heard Alzheimer's and all this Parkinson's comes from people getting dormant on one side or the other. You know, and so I've been lucky, and I realized that. And the learning curve, I can't learn enough. I love discovering new things that were always there that just have to reveal themselves.
Hmm. I was thinking about you yesterday because we have a little storage unit and we want to close down this storage unit because we're like, what are we doing? Like, let's go over there. So I ran over to the storage unit. And one of the things that I found was a tote, and I brought it back to the house. And it was my father's old vinyl records. And as I was going through them yesterday, Stephen, I was thinking about you and about your, musician lines and your composer, and I love a few of the songs that you've already sent me that you've done. And I was looking for my son because my son said, "Hey mom, Michael Jackson's old record, the vinyl record." I said, "I think we have it. I think it was your grandfather's in this collection." And I'm going to go over to storage and bring back the vinyls, right? So I brought back the vinyls and I was searching through them yesterday and I was thinking about you, and I was looking at these records that my dad had, and he had put his initials on the back of a few of them. Like he had records of George Carlin, like his
That was us, Class Clown. That's how we got.
yes.
The album Cheech and Chong. Those albums were just as important too because we listened to it, because the transition to radio, to television, to technology brought us there.
Yeah, and his yeah, and so I was thinking about you because I'm like, I know that Stephen would I identify with this. Just the fact that my dad had taken a black Sharpie and put his initials on the back of these vinyls. These were his, and I mean, it was so eclectic. He had Lionel Richie to Air Supply to everyone and others. So what I did is I kind of stepped back into my dad's life, and I'm like, okay, I don't know this. I think one of the George Green, you know him?
George Green.
He's one of the ones that my dad had. I'm like, I don't know this musician, but I went to Apple Music, put it on. I'm like, okay, cool. This is what my dad liked. I like it too. So I know music is such a unifying factor in humanity. That's why I was kind of, just to be completely transparent, because I always am. I think last year was the 30-year reunion of We Are the World, right?
Right. And my friend, actually, Larry Klein, who worked for Dick Clark for many years, is a dear friend of mine. He produced that.
He did. Okay. So I
Yes.
was like, it's the 30-year reunion. Where are the musicians? Where are they? We need to get together and do this again and have music unify us. And I know music for you has always been really big. Also, I know that you moved to California in 1978, which
Yes.
was a bold leap. What did that move teach you about betting on yourself before the world gave you permission? What did that move teach you?
That move was just discovery.
Mm.
Well, there was that I can't. That story would be 3 hours. We'll talk about this.
Okay,
Coming
okay.
out with my friend or what I mean, uh, the first thing is we heard Led Zeppelin going to California. There's a girl out there with flowers in her hair. The Summer of Love, um, all that stuff. California was a dream. All that great music I love, just as well as the diversity of New York. See, when you said about your dad's album, the diversity was so important because I go see Harold Melvin, the Blue Notes, the Spinners, Led Zeppelin, Lou Reed, Edgar Winter. Um, and we just went. We loved music was just we loved it all because it was all being invented and becoming what it is, the genres. But we just loved it all, the diversity of music and the cultures coming together. Because in New York and New Jersey, everyone becomes the East Coast. When you live,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a cab driver from Pakistan, you're going to start talking like I do, you know, and you can pick up these euphemisms and colloquialisms, so to speak, and you become a New Yorker. But you still the culture. So that's a part of it that going to Washington Square Park with my buddy Fernando. God bless you, brother. You're up there now. He passed, but
Oh,
going there and sitting around the park with the drummers and the guitarists and acoustics and people would just jam. But
yes.
people go, "Oh, check out the new Stones song, check out the new Hendrix song," and all that stuff was coming out. Those albums, like you said, they were so tangible to hold and read. Who's the engineer? Who's the musicians? What studio is this? And we'd read everything because you had to wait for the band that you loved maybe 8 months to a year before they toured and came around. You know, and that tangible thing was so important. But then you're playing with these different cultures: Puerto Rican, Cuban, Italian, Irish, Black. It was the whole thing, and we all played what was happening that was inspiring us. Like, what does this sound? Who's the wow? But at the same time, then a Cuban guy or Puerto Rican say, "Hey, check out this samba," and so that was there as well. So that was constant. I mean, New York has Nuyorican. They have these, they make up this whole melting pot of the culture with the city, and that was so important. And it's funny now because tangible things are so important, and I use both. And I love digital age, the AI. It's all beautiful. If you use it as a tool, it's efficient and quick, but you have to be creative. And I know everything's so fast, and people can't focus. It's like everyone just is on to the next thing before they even start the first thing. But the point is, I travel a lot. Um, and there's always a renaissance of
Mm.
musicians. There's always going to be people that play together. I'm going to Nashville in a few weeks. I love the vibe there, and I've been lucky to have those renaissance because we had it in the '60s and '70s in New York, big time, in New Jersey, and then when I came to California, '78 into the '80s, and I moved to the Bay Area into Marin County. That's where the Dead lived, and Van Morrison and Santana, all those bands semi-retired to the bay across the bridge there because it's a beautiful uh, utopian kind of society, so to speak,
Yeah.
and the nature around it. And it was happening there too.
I
And
remember
then
my parents, my mom said she was in line for Woodstock. Was that in California too?
Woodstock was in New York.
Okay. So she was in line for Woodstock and could never get into the concert because the traffic
Right. And
was
they gave the tickets away, and the fence came down, and everyone
Mhm.
went. That was the generation before me, but a lot of those guys that went to Vietnam that came back that I made friends with because of music. Um, Woodstock having that album that opened up the three albums and seeing that was a big part of it. And Monterey was the first, Janis Joplin, and seeing that as well. Uh, we didn't get to see, we get to hear it then. We didn't get to see it yet, really. But we dreamed. We said, wow, these are people like-minded coming together for the same purpose and just joy of music and the experience and love and everything else that goes with it.
Yeah.
Um,
I know
because
you met Corey D. Williams, didn't you, through martial arts?
well, I I met a Hugh Van Patten.
Uh-huh.
This he's a black guy, but looked like Harry Belafonte. Had a smile that could light up a room.
Hmm.
And I went for a job down on Robertson. I remember Robertson, kind of towards Culver City.
Uh-huh.
I went for this job, and they sold office supplies, which you need 30 cases of toner, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I was good at sales when I got into it. But so I met you, Van Patten, and Mark and Harry back then, and I got a job, and we just right away became like a family and friends. And one guy, Mark, who I think was running the whole thing as far as the paying for everything, and so this office supplies was kind of some of the income. But they said, we have this penthouse over on Sunset, and we do martial arts and acting class because you Van Patten's he was in Vietnam, Green Beret, and he just exuded beauty and joy. But you won't mess with this guy. Trust me. One
Right.
shot, you're dead. I mean, we knew that, but he was totally anti-fighting. You don't fight unless it's for to the death or to protect your family.
So you
So,
got invited to this penthouse?
so the penthouse office they had around Sunset and Hammond, right in the mecca of West Hollywood, which became my stomping ground. Um, they had these acting classes, and I had, I'm from New York, so I knew about Stanislavski and this actor studio because I also love film. I mean, they shot on the waterfront of Brando in Hoboken. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Ellis Kazan and all that. So I knew all the classics as well as the new stuff. So, and I'm fine with both. I love the origin of things and the genesis as well because they make up everything we love in the future. And so what was my point? I'm going.
So
I'm going.
so
I'm
you
from
you met with Corey and then you went to
right,
this
right.
penthouse.
So here's what this is what happened. So I'm doing martial arts with Van, and I never got my ass whooped like that. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
I go home shaking. I couldn't even walk, and I was in really good shape then, but I couldn't. And I just I would hardly make it home. You know, but he would do a thing where like a whip. He teach you how to be totally no energy to all energy at once. That's why Bruce Lee
Wow.
could knock you across the room without even touching you, hitting you just by
Wow.
force. So we did a lot of on off, and so he said, you got to meet Corey D. Williams, Billy D's son, because he trains. He's one of my best students. So then the next thing that happens, they said, let's do an acting class. And I said, I'll give it a wing, and so uh, the actor studio, the Stanislavski kind of thing is method opposed to Shakespearean.
Right.
So the
Method
method,
acting.
yeah, method is like the light bulb, screwing the light bulb. You know what I mean? You go through the motions, and
Hey, didn't Marlon Brando do method acting?
yeah, all of James Dean, Mal
Yeah.
Monroe, everybody
Yeah,
from that.
yeah. Okay.
Meaning, like, and they had a thing of imagery. It's really hard to change your attributes. The
Uh-huh.
way you walk and talk, it's really hard to break that mold. I mean, you don't want to. You want to be yourself. But when it comes to acting, how do I take that how do I just become that? So, for instance, Marlon Brando, he took on a bear in The Godfather. So when the first shot going in, the way if you look again and think of that, he's a
Uh-huh.
bear. He's a bear.
Wow.
His movement is that, and he put some tissues in his mouth to give him the puffy and the way he talked to command that kind of respect. And so I said, so they said, Steve, you're gonna do a scene. You're gonna be a loan shark, and you're gonna
So
go get your money. So I took in a shark so I could be very, fearless. And and the thing is that the night of we're gonna do this workshop, Billy D walks in. So now I'm living. I'm like, oh my God.
Billy D.
No,
Williams?
yeah, I'm like, what? I gotta do this. I'm not even an actor. I'm gonna do this in front of him.
Wow.
And because I guess Van also trained a lot of stars, like Billy D and stuff like that. So that's how he met Corey.
So this is like being at the right place at the right time. You go in because you go to this penthouse for martial arts, and then all of a sudden
From
you
an office
meet.
supply job that I'm working with them in
Uh-huh.
the daytime.
Okay.
Okay. This is our nighttime activity. And he walks in and I do the scene and he goes, pretty good, kid, whatever. I'm like, wow, I was floating home, man. I mean,
Wow,
you
I
know,
bet you were.
so 2 or 3 days later, I'm with Van and we go to Billy's house and there's Corey. Within an hour, and Billy said, you dress sharp, kid, that too. So, I looked up to him like almost a father or an uncle. And the father I never had that got sick. My father had a lot of love, but when he got sick, he had an aneurysm. He was paralyzed in one arm and couldn't drive anymore. And it just,
Oh,
took him down as a man. And it took years of abuse. Then he wasn't a happy man. He took advantage
this
of
was
my
your
mom.
dad?
Yeah. Then my
Oh,
mother
I'm so
finally left him.
sorry.
My father, well, it's life. And I never felt bad. I felt compassionate for him.
Yeah.
And, he always had a love of music and this and that. So that part of it was great. He was always supportive there. And, and
So
so,
when Billy D. Williams asked Corey to stand in for Lando, and
so here, now let me
you
get,
went along, right?
you're jumping ahead
Okay,
a
go
little
ahead,
bit.
go ahead.
So Corey and I meet, and within a half hour, we're in the garage playing together, and it's like magic because he was raised in New York, the diversity and the bands and everything out. And then we meet Tony Zawano. We had a host of people, but Tony Zawano comes, who's a drummer, and his dad, Joe Zawano from Weather Report, who became my other chosen family for many, many
Uh-huh.
years.
Oh, I
I
love
mean, to
that.
this day, because Weather Report and that level of Herbie Hancock, Weather Report, Miles, Wayne Shorter was actually Billy's wife, Taruko. That was Wayne Shorter's ex-wife, who was the best soprano in the world. I mean, great.
Wow.
So I knew the magnitude of that too because of my music knowledge, and that's why I got along with those guys because humbly I spoke to them in their language, because I understood. Even
Yes.
I can play that level. I mean, Joe's from Austria, classically trained, but he had this deep rooted. I mean, I can't say enough about them and that whole thing. So Corey and I started playing, and before you know, we had a band and all kinds of people coming through. You never knew who was going to come in that garage, like Martha Reeves from the Vandellas, or who have you going to walk in that garage and say, hey guys, because Corey and I were vicious, man. We beside our key and our martial art, he was much more martial art than me. Something I always gravitated to, but I wasn't. I never got belts or anything. But
Yeah.
in our music, we were just like, I have pictures I could send you. You could see it
I can see it in my mind right now. So you guys have this band in the garage. People are coming. Then what
every
happens?
day like clockwork.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then it was a modern family because Taruko's Miyako Wayne's daughter lived there with her boyfriend Gary, who was a top martial artist with Corey, but then he got in a car accident later on, and Hanako, the young daughter. So it was a mixed bag. The whole face, a lot going on there,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they put up with us in the garage with the music constantly, but Billy loved it. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, if I was it was my house back then. I think about it 24/7 with that stuff. It would drive me a little crazy. But
Right.
but but it just Corey and I just led us to all this stuff, and then like every day, that's all we lived for. Corey I don't think I had a car then, for a while. Corey picked me up every day from Laurel County, come down to West Holly, get me. We'd be back up there, and we lived for that, and then one day Billy comes in. It was like April, and Billy had done Empire Strikes Back already, and Corey's been on a lot of sets. He wasn't interested in acting much, more the music, but he was very athletic. So he'd be on sets, And so Billy came in and said, Corey, would you like to stand in? I'm doing this new Star Wars, but I don't even know name of it. And Corey says, where is this? He says, Arizona. At the same time, we're trying to get a deal because and Billy is very supportive of us, and he'd help us in any way. And Billy had done a lot of movies with Motown, with Diana Ross, Lady Sings the Blues, Mahogany. So we're trying to get a Motown then.
Wow.
So you get a 3-song demo, they like it, and then it escalates into a full album, full budget, whatever, which you pay back at the end anyway. But
sidebar. Next week, Suze Green, one of the Supremes, is coming on Beyond Mindset Limits, so you got to catch her show too. But I'm
so
interested
cool.
in you. Okay, so that was in Arizona.
No, so we're looking at each other like Corey goes, but I want to do music. We're in the middle of writing this. He's a little adamant about it. And Billy looks at me because you want to go want to be a Jedi or something. You come. I said, what am I going to do? Am I going to work? He goes, no. You're going to bring the guitar. Corey bring the bass. You bring the little amps, the little portable amps. And it'll be fun out there playing for everybody. And you guys continue to write. There'll be a lot of downtime. We didn't know we're going to be in the middle of the damn desert either.
Right.
It's a solid pit. None of that was, now it's a reality, but we didn't know any of it. And before you know, I'm on a plane with Billy D, Corey, and Carrie Fisher on this little plane. And I remember going to the airport with the limo, picked us up, and we went to the part of the airport I've never been to, the Admiralty Club, whatever. I said, okay, I like this. I can get used to this. And then Carrie was next to me reading Dune, and we kind of talked, and I kind of knew Carrie from my social scene a little bit,
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool. And we arrived on a Sunday to Yuma, which Yuma then was probably 2 blocks to Main Street. That was it. I mean, so Buttercup Valley in Arizona. But we didn't see any set yet. So we get to the hotel, and it's a day off. So it's almost like Airbnb back then. They had the hotel, but they had apartments in the back for the cast and crew.
Oh, yeah.
And the first person I see is, I started to piece things together because I was familiar with Star Wars. Peter Mayhew's in the hot tub, who plays Chewbacca, who became the sweetest man in the world. I mean, I love being around him, kind soul. And he's towering over me in a 4-foot hot tub. I said, oh, that's got to be Chewbacca, right? And then Mark Hamill runs up, and, he's in his bathing suit, and everybody's having a good time by the pool. And next day we drive out, and there's this monolith. There's Jabba's barge with the Sarlacc pit and the skiff, all built high up as a dune as well, to blend into the horizon, because it's just seamless. But I didn't have a job, so the thing is, I'm on the set with Corey, and it's just Kenny Baker and Stuart Freeborn, all the fabric that make up this. That I go out with all these people now that I understand. That make up this, beside the Harrison Ford and the main actors, there's a lot more to it. I'm looking, saying, oh my God, look at this. They're building a metropolis and they just tear it down. It's amazing, the magnitude of the whole thing and the stories, and people gravitated to Corey and I because we were, just humble souls, and we had so much joy in the music, and we just, it just came out of every pore. And we played music at night. We had a blackout one night. We entertained everybody. They're dancing and having a good time. And, we were like the buzz on the set as far as that's concerned.
So you went along to keep writing music, right?
Yeah, I was Billy's guest.
Uh-huh. So did you have any idea that decision would become part of film history?
No, not whatsoever.
So what happened?
But I know my life's always been like that. So I just go with it. I'm there for the fleeting moment. And I because of our love of music, we draw people in. That's the thing about actors too. Either you want to be or need to be, and if you want to be, you're always going to be a wannabe. if you need to be, if you're not making a dime, you're still going to go off Broadway and do it because it's your craft and you love that. Just like music, if I'm not making money, I'm still playing the guitar, writing. I'm still in that room doing
Right.
it, and I'm not trying to impress anybody. So that kind of draws people in.
It does. That like I don't care. This is my craft. I'm just going to do whatever
It's not you
I'm
don't
going to
care.
do.
I don't say you don't care. It's just that you're being an example of, okay, you
Yes.
can do this too. You just got to work hard, and you have to love it, and you have to put the time in. You know.
So you ended up playing Gamorrean Guard
So here,
in
so here's how that goes. I'm on the show playing music. By the third day in, long days, the sand moves like the ecosystem of the ocean. It's not like Palm Springs. It's like the Saharas, you know.
right.
Peckinpah's out there, and you can look at a mountain one day, and 2 hours later, it's over on the other side. So you got to be careful. Like they had ATVs out there, and the sheriff said, "Be careful when you go up those mountains. It could be sheared off, and people get killed like that out there." So, but I'm getting a little restless that I want to do something because everybody's working, busy bee. I'm watching all the shots being set up and everything else, and I'm learning. And I kind of say, well, how do I ask for a job? I don't want to insult Billy D as his guest because I have all the amenities,
Hmm.
with Billy. Hey, Corey, amenities you would get only as an A-list actor there, So being his guest, but so will I be stepping on his toes if I ask for a job or something? Not even to get paid, just to do something. Here, use me, help, I'll help. So Howard Kazanjian, the producer, invites Billy out one night, and we tag along, Corey and I, and I'm sitting at the table, and I said, if I don't do this now, I never will. And I said, Billy, with all due respect, Howard, do you mind? I'm here as a guest. And if you need me for anything, they had scorpion cleanup in the mornings under the sets and stuff because a lot of scorpion. And so I said I'll do scorpion clean. I don't care, but let me do something. Put me to work.
Yeah.
I'll work for free. So he goes, okay. Now at that point, Corey had been standing in. He did have to. A squib went off on Billy's leg at one point, and the Sarlacc pit hanging. So Corey got to hang, and he was doing this and that. He wasn't. He was just filling in for his dad, but it wasn't a character yet. So next day we go, and it's funny. Yesterday, the still photographer I haven't Ralph Nelson Jr., which I have the slide with his name on it that he gave me as a gift that I sell as
Oh,
an 8x10. He pops up on Facebook yesterday, and I reached out to him. I said, and we're talking 45 years I haven't seen him.
right.
He's always in my mind. He was so kind to us, certain people, no egos. And I just friended him and sent him the old slide picture. And he's like, that's why it's just evolving. It's no end. I mean,
Right.
so then I go in the next day. Corey becomes Klaatu, which didn't even have a name then. And it's going to be this. We didn't know it's going to be the pinnacle of the fight on the barge when, Luke Skywalker jumps over the Sarlacc pit onto the barge to save, Princess Leia. But I didn't know any of this. So they put me in a guard thing. The bottom is real heavy and the feet, and it's all latex in the hands. And they put the mask on. I could see through it, but my peripheral's off. And I said, what do I do? I want to do the right job. I'm not prepared. I didn't read any script, which was on a hush hush anyway. And
Right.
they put footsteps for me to follow on the barge on the floor. And then all of a sudden, Luke Skywalker, Mark Calvin comes out with holding the saber, but no saber. I don't know, what the hell. He has his handle. And he's gonna. I don't know if it's a sword, but later on, of course, it's a green saber. Um, and we go at it. This whole scene, and I get chopped in half. I don't go on a solid pit. I get chopped in half. And then the stunt guys and everything, they did the integral parts, and they don't fall in the pit for other scenes, falling off the thing and making.
Right.
And so I get chopped in half. But the coolest thing is that Billy is proud of Corey, and we got these characters. So he has his 35 millimeter, and you're not allowed anything on that set. Everything. Nobody knows anything. They called it Blue Harvest, horror beyond imagination, on a T-shirt, which is supposed to be fictitious, but the whole town knows, of course. You
Right.
see, they would ride out there, and the chain link fence was there, and all the ATVs would come out and look from afar, and no, I didn't know what was going on, But Billy took pictures of me with the mask off and Corey and the still photographer, Ralph Nelson Jr., also took pictures, which he made slides for I'm sure for Lucas and the director, Richard Marguan. And
Yeah.
he gave me one as a gift that I still have, that I have an 8x10 of. And so all that stuff, Billy had the 35 millimeter because he's Billy D. But of course, I'm sure they said, you can't put the stuff out. The film doesn't come out for a year. And it was they figured it's his personal archives. The son's involved, you know, and so I didn't think much of it. We did this thing. We did go to a screening when it opened. It was incredible in L.A.
So
I
you
still
didn't, so you got plugged in there. They put the costume on you. They
right,
give you footsteps on the ground because you don't know what to do. They're just like, follow this footsteps.
right.
And then that, you didn't think much of that, right? And so,
No, well, when Luke came out, I said, "Oh, this is interesting because he's not a stand-in doing this. It's him. It must be this. This could be a scene. This is actual scene."
so that whole music trip turned into a legendary film experience for
Well,
you.
beyond that, many years I looked at it as an indelible memory, of course, and we mentioned it here and there, and but I didn't. It wasn't my future.
Right.
It was
And
just a.
and a lot of people know that Star Wars part of your story. A lot of people know that, but your music career runs even deeper. How do you stay connected to that full truth of who you are when the world only recognizes one piece of your journey? And before you answer that, the reason why this question is so important to me is this past weekend in LA, and I was in a seminar, and they say in the personal coaching and the mindset world, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so I was being viewed through a lens of a lawyer only. And they were looking at the lawyer aspect of me only, but they were degrading the fact that I had hot pink nails, not looking at the lens of me being a published artist as well. I'm an artist. I'm a creative genius, just like you are. And so this question is really, really important to me because I got angry because it was as if I was being reduced down to just a lawyer with them negating all the other facets of who I am. And you are like me, you're a unicorn, right? You do all these things. So when music is run deep within your soul, how do you stay connected to that full truth of who you are when the world just wants to put you into, hey, he was a member of the Return of the Jedi?
Because music is my genesis and will always
Mm.
be, and because
Mm.
I own that part of me, and I entertain a lot of people. Even my friends that would love to say that sucks. They never did. It always made them cry or laugh, and I always move people, and that made me feel better because we all get sad sometime, and I carry a lot of
Mhm.
emotion. I'm a conduit. I feel the pain of the world a lot, of
Yeah.
course, and
And
music
break
was
that down for me. Music is my genesis.
well, meaning music got me into Jedi, and then when Jedi stopped, 25 years, nothing about it. Like Star Wars came out, I told certain friends I was in Star Wars. There wasn't much to it. I didn't have many pictures. I didn't know those pictures or anything. It was all in Billy's archives and Corey at the time. So
So it was
music.
your foundation, and then you return to your foundation over and over
Well,
again.
here's the thing. When 25 years later, I guess Billy had moved. Corey moved to, excuse me, Atlanta. You got to cut that.
Okay, no worries.
I burped from it. But Billy had Corey moved to Atlanta because Billy's first, Corey's mom lives there, and he wanted to be closer to her. And they have a thing called Dragon Con, which Billy was a guest at, Billy D. And I think at that time the guy from Mod Squad was there too, because Corey was telling me about how Billy Cornelius, remember from Mod Squad, the black guy,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
who he did a few Spike Lee movies later on, I think, and had a second coming, and they were both there, and Corey goes to visit his dad at Dragon Con, and then the appearance manager at the time, still to this for Billy, Derek at the time. Um, some pictures that come out from Billy's archives of Corey with the mask off, me, and I guess they said, "Who's this? You know, what's this about?" Corey was involved with this, and the story came out after all those years later, all the prequels and sequels and everything. Not before Disney Plus, but you know, with all the other Mandalorian stuff, and so a picture came on Facebook. I think of us with the mask off, and all of a sudden, I get people writing. This guy from England, they do Star Wars Fun Fan Day, which is a great 1 day event that's incredible. And they do it in Manchester, Burnley, soccer, Manchester, north of UK. But the Burnley soccer field is there, and that's where the Manchester, you know, the soccer, the whole thing,
Yeah.
football. And they said, "Have you ever signed autographs?" This is the writing to me. And I said, "No, what do you mean? My scene was so short lived. I just thought of it as a great experience. And I live with that, and I'm very grateful." They said, "No. You got killed by Luke Skywalker in the most pitiful scenes." And I said, "Okay." They sent me a bunch of items, like 60 items to sign with a check. And I go, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
The light
Yes,
goes off.
please.
Okay, as a musician, you're always looking for that other way to make some resources to keep your thing going,
Yeah.
to be independent at least, you know, because I've had deals and stuff that even the best of them, the deals Billy Joel, Springsteen, that bad man, you know, it took years to learn the business of music. It's a whole different thing. And I went to school for that later on, which led to another, you know, one thing, every time I make that decision, I know there's something deeper there. I don't know what it is.
You
I
just
don't,
follow it. You have that knowing within you, right? Because you've always been placed in the right rooms at the right time. And so my question is, a lot of people dream of creating, but they never really build an infrastructure around that dream. So our listeners today, we have about 3 more minutes. What advice would you give artists who want to move from passion into a professional legacy like you've developed? What advice would you give them?
develop your craft, be the best
Mm,
you can be. I
yes.
mean, it's hard now because it's so cookie cutter, and whatever tool takes you there, it's great. I mean, even when rap came out, I knew it was street parties in the Bronx. You know, I didn't understand it as much because I was on the move to California. You know, but I knew the roots of it was let's keep everybody calm in the summers, put those fire.
Yeah.
You know, they have street parties, not where MCs and you know all the greats started.
So I love that. So develop your craft. So beyond mindset limits is about going past the fear, the doubt, the invisible ceilings. What was one internal limit you had to break through to keep expanding creativity? What was a limit, like a limiting belief that you had to break through? And we have about 2 minutes left. I want to know
Wow.
what you had to
There's so
break
much
through.
more. We need 2 hours.
I know we need like 5 hours for your story,
We're just on
Stephen.
the tip of the iceberg right now. With
I know.
the music, we got to do a show just on the music career
Yes, absolutely. So
because
what's
that's been
one?
the same thing. The same epiphany that went down with Star Wars has been through my musical career too.
I know.
Even as Stevie Wonder's producer, and when I went to school and had Malcolm Cecil, who produced all of Stevie Wonder and ran the BBC, and then his partner Robert Margoloff doing my EP years later, was all there. But what's the question again? I'm sorry, I got off the
So
track a
what's
minute.
what's one limiting belief that you had to overcome that you can help our listeners with if it is like did you ever feel not good enough? Did you ever feel like you couldn't do it? Did you
Oh,
ever feel
you always have insecurity. I
yeah.
mean, I do have some because I'm a Taurus. My sign is a
Oh,
bull.
yes, you
We're
are.
of the earth, and you know that's kept me grounded. And we don't need much as long as we're happy. The world can go on. You know what I mean?
So if
Not in a narcissistic way,
right.
but I look at it like the fear and excitement are the same emotion. So
Mm.
every time I have fear, I try to make it excitement because it is the same emotion. It's just your choice.
Yes. So if our listeners wanted to go and find Stephen Constantino, how can they reach out to you?
Stephen with Stephen and Costantino, COSTANTINO.org. That's my website. It's a good place to start. And of course, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, always putting on this Star Wars thing. And one thing for the music, um, once those pictures came out, they next thing I was on a plane to Burnley, and I met Blue Harvest, the VIP band that plays for the, and they have those meet and greets and
Yeah.
private dinners. I play with these guys and wind up playing with them all week throughout the UK at the Preston and all this. And the drummer to this day, still Andy sends me tracks. And so the music is always there. And so once that came established, Billy's appearance agent said, you and Corey want to go out. So the first 5 or 6 years we went out, Corey, Billy, and I, and told the story of how music got us there. And it gave a lot of hope compared to what actors struggling to get there, and they finally make it in Star Wars or something that big. It's a revelation. But in our case, because we believed so much in our music and we're so humble about it, that led us there. And when we did all these Q&As, people just had so much hope. Okay, I could be doing that, and it could lead to this. Just if you stay open to it and work hard.
And there you have it, folks. This is an interview with Stephen Costantino, dropping the bars today. Just keeping your eye on the mark, develop your craft, stay open to hope. Stephen, you know what? Thank you so much for this interview today. I know it's going to help our listeners. And that's a wrap for Beyond Mindset Limits. I hope you guys are doing well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining Tisha Marie Cain for Beyond Mindset Limits. Tune in every Wednesday at 4 p.m. as the conversation continues around mindset, legal insight, and publishing as a strategic tool for business positioning. Visit TishaMarieCain.com or CainsLegalSupport.com for more information or to schedule your private appointment.